again, hopefully you'll get the sense of urgency for Johnny, and he's on his bike. And page 67. Frank got to the front door, only to see the Magnum disappearing around the corner. Johnny pedaled hard, the 844 responding smoothly to his touch. Looming ahead was the flood-lit planetarium, like some freshly landed spacecraft, growing bigger as the thick-treaded tires of the Magnum advanced and grabbed at the pavement. Johnny figured the quickest way to the industrial district would be the False Creek shoreline, which he knew like the back of his hand. He pulled the hood of his jacket over his toque to add warmth to a bitterly cold and clear night. He then slipped into a trail that led to the seawall. And then leaping further ahead, page 69, some distance away, a trail took Johnny through a dark section of alder trees that opened out to the seawall. As the dim forms of slender tree trunks drifted past, Johnny shuddered, hoping not to encounter any of the homeless souls who often frequented the gullies and hidden reaches of this innocent grove. He leaned down tight into the Magnum as he rounded the first bend next to the seawall. The twinkling of the city lights was caught and gently bent by the water's reflection. It was high tide and quiet, except for the sound of Johnny's tires as he sped past the many fishing trawlers moored near Granville Island. As he motored his way around each advancing bend, his mind raced ahead, trying to imagine just where they might be taking Jennifer, and of the whereabouts of his comrade in arms, Spike Ritter. Spike does have a surname. He comes from good German stock. And thinking about Spike, he's asking himself, was he with any of the gang, with Jennifer, or simply left behind in that lonely lane? The strong, familiar scent of the sea added to the presence of False Creek Harbor, with its magnificent Vancouver skyline rising up in levels on the north side. Johnny shifted his gaze to the east, taking in the huge geodesic dome of Science World, affectionately known as the golf ball. It stood almost on guard at the end of False Creek, triggering off at random the many strobe lights that dotted its surface. Something about this glittering globe held Johnny almost in a trance. The brilliant ball, which sat on a rectangular substructure, was secured at the corners by huge tubular leg-like supports. Thoughts of Spike came flooding in as Johnny pumped even harder, cycling past some curious and bundled evening strollers, forcing several Canada geese to quickly scramble off the pavement. So he's seeing Science World and he's catching that image that reminds him of a spider, and he has an intuitive sense that this is where he needs to go. He needs to head to Science World. That's where all the action is happening. And leaping a little bit further ahead, Zendron has one of these high-powered speedboats called the Mean Streak, and he and Randy have thrown Jennifer into the back of the boat, and they're speeding off toward the houseboat village, Granville Island. And this is page 74, chapter 8. Though there was little wind on the water, the wind created by Mean Streak, Zendron's power cruiser, was enough to emphasize the coldness of this autumn evening. Jennifer Goff crouched in her seat, teeth chattering, and looked out to the smooth, trim wake streaming from the stern of the boat. She glanced at Zendron, poised beside her with the elaborate pistol. She thought of jumping, but quickly realized how foolish that would be, with hands bound and the water so cold. So they've got her hands are all bound up with duct tape, and they're heading to the houseboat marina. And if I just